Welcome to Melee Fundamentals. This series will teach the fundamental skills of meleeing and deadlock. Today, I'm just going to show you how to land 2 heavy melees after you parry. Not only is this just an important thing to learn, but it also gives me a chance to explain what buffering is and teach you a little bit more about how punching works. Let's start by putting together a timeline of everything that happens when we parry. First off, the stun from a parry lasts for 2.75 seconds. Our second punch needs to land before this stun wears off, or we risk getting parried ourselves. So let's try it on this dummy and see what happens. We'll start counting the frame that this exclamation point appears over the dummy's head. After that, our first third of a second is spent in this short parry animation. Let's mark that down on our timeline. Next, we'll measure out the first punch. We're measuring from the frame that the input is registered up until the frame that the punch does damage. And with that, we get a result of 0.617 seconds. After we punch, there's a mandatory recovery period for 0.917 seconds where we can't punch again. So now we add that recovery period to the timeline, and then we add one more punch, and we already know how long those take. After everything's said and done, we're left with a 267 millisecond margin for error, which is not the number that I wrote down, and I need to fix it. In the meantime, you may have noticed that 267 milliseconds is not a lot of time, and that makes this very easy to fuck up. There's a couple really common ways people get parried trying to do this. I think the most common one is just starting the punch late. So this red triangle points at where in the timeline our Mo started holding Q. So the advice I would give this Mo is, rather than take a chance that you might press it too late, why not always press it early? Then, as long as you keep holding it down, even if you do press it too early, the game is happy to just wait and then input the punch on the first frame that it's possible to do so. The fancy word for this is buffering, so you would say you're buffering a punch out of parry. And just humor me while I explain this a different way for the visual learners. This is the frame that I actually start holding Q. I'm still in the parry animation, I'm not allowed to punch yet. But that's fine, I just keep holding down Q, and then on this frame, when I'm actually allowed to punch, the input goes through and my punch starts as soon as possible. And then I just keep holding down Q until I start my second punch, and because I buffered the whole time, that means I know for certain that there's no way this guy can parry me. That said, there is another way you can mess this up. Earlier I gave a time for how long it takes to punch, but you and I both know it takes longer to punch from further away. That extra travel time can be the difference between 2 free punches or 1 expensive knuckle sandwich. But you may be surprised to know it wasn't actually this travel time that did it. It was this travel time. That's because when adding a bunch of travel time makes your punch take longer, the game compensates by making the subsequent recovery period shorter. Here, see for yourself. They finished punching on the exact same frame, even though the Ivy on the right started from way further away. So this first punch doesn't matter, what matters is this. All that McGinnis needed to do here to not get parried was to hold forward so that she walks into the Billy before the punch. Because during that recovery period, you can have a little bit of movement. Use it. I wish I could give you the exact distance that you could get away with, but it depends on items like melee charge and crushing fists, as well as how Australian your opponent happens to be. Anyway, I mentioned you can move during the recovery period, but there's actually a few things you can do. You're locked out of punching for most of it, but you can shoot during the recovery period. Just hold down left click. You can also parry somebody else. Here's what that looks like. But you just have to make sure that you're holding Q so that you buffer it out of the recovery phase. As long as you're on time to your second punch appointment, you're good. You're not going to get parried. I just want to finish with a reminder here, which is that just because something's hard and you know how to do it, does not mean it's always the correct thing to do. You probably shouldn't greed for 2 heavy melees on somebody if, for instance, you have a lot of gun DPS. Maybe in that case you should just shoot them. You shouldn't do it if they have somebody nearby who can parry for them. You might even just be better off on some characters just landing an ability. Or, you know, there's characters like Billy or Abrams where parrying them doesn't necessarily mean that you win the fight. And there are cases where you parry somebody and now you have to run away. If you liked this video, that's great. I'm happy to hear it. If you disliked this video, here are the names of all of the people who pay me to make this hogwash. So why don't you look them up in the phone book and give them a piece of your mind. Actually, now that we're at the end of the video, it might be a good time to introduce myself in general. To those of you who don't know who I am, this might be your first video. I'm an Eternus 2 Melee IV1 trick, and this series is kind of a break from my usual programming, where this is like a strictly instructive thing pointed at new players, where I plan to just teach all of the things that I know about meleeing that the game doesn't really tell you, so that other people don't have to learn them the hard way. Next episode, I think I'm going to talk about heavy melee canceling, but I'm not sure. Let me know in the comments sort of what you would be interested in, and I will weigh that against what I'm interested in making. Anyway, thanks again for watching. Bye.